But given all of that, we look at life differently. How do we manage these things? In our particular case, we are looking at consolidation within our industry in teaming up with others to strengthen our base, which effectively means that we are looking at cutting costs, meaning, you know, in the particular case I'm talking of, we are trying to merge with another entity, and basically it would mean that with a lower cost base have a wider revenue base. So the takeaway that I would have for most people in this room is you've got to watch costs. There's not much you can do about the overall market conditions. Yes, there is demand being driven by the rural economy, initially as a result of government action of having fixed a very high minimum purchase price for wheat, which we started seeing a transfer of wealth into the rural economy. And then the more recent commodity price boom that's hit the international markets, it's adding on significant value to the rural economy, the spending power, and therefore creating demand for a variety of industries. And I would probably add the the general consumer industry and not just sort of a few things like automobile, etc. So overall, the economy, for one reason or the other, is to my mind on a growth path. The demand being created by the rural sector is significant. It's helping most of us stay afloat. And as we go forward, I would expect that the government will be forced to deal with the deficit. It's taken certain measures, and it will be forced to deal ultimately with the energy issue. Unfortunately, what we've seen as a track record, not only of this government but others as well, that they will not act in advance. They will do things when they're just simply forced to. And that seems to be the issue here. So as generally the financial managers of corporates, CFOs, what can you do? Probably look at on the one side, trying to be on the top of forecasting issues that impact the business you're in, and more importantly, in making sure that costs are kept under control. And it's only in a highly expansionary economy that one can have the luxury of letting costs go a bit. Otherwise, the key issue to my mind is controlling costs and making sure that you survive difficult times, making sure that you're properly capitalized and you're not too highly leveraged, certainly in a high interest rate environment and a volatile business environment. That can be a death trap if you get into too much of debt. So those are the issues I would address as financial managers of companies. But overall, I would be optimistic about things and not pessimistic. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhiksa. Asad, please.
Thank you, and Assalamu alaikum. I think Naseem Saab and Aleem Saab have already described the broad conditions that we are in, highlighting the uncertainties and the problems that we have in the economy. I would just like to highlight a few issues which are important to consider, I think, when we are planning our businesses and when we are, preparing our business plans and doing our business management. I think despite some optimism that was shown by earlier panelists, there are certain aspects which are fundamental, which have fundamental and pervasive impact on our economy. I don't see them going away. And some of these are the pervasive issue of law and order that we have, the extremism that we have in our society, the divisiveness in our society, so those aspects, I don't see them going away, at least in the near future, and they have pervasive impact on our economy. Then on the economic side, the energy crisis that we have had, again, I don't see any significant change in 2011. I think we'll continue to have load shedding. We'll continue to have escalation in the prices of the energy, be that the oil or the electricity, etc. So the costs are going to continue to go up, and we'll have to operate in the same environment. Third, on the economic side is the inflation, which is largely a function of, I would say, the huge gap between the government's revenues and expenditure. And there are multiple other factors as well. So I think, again, as far as inflation is concerned, I don't see that going away in 2011. We'll continue to have high level of inflation. And of course, the causes of inflation, as I said, one of the key causes of inflation is low revenues of the government and high expenditure, high non-productive expenditure. I'm not seeing a significant change in our tax to GDP ratio in the short term. Now, even if it occurs in medium and long term, I think we'll be very lucky. But so far it seems that we are not even heading in the right direction. We also need to consider that the most important impact on our economy is the governance structure. Obviously, we have corruption, we have poor governance. These are things that we have seen in the last decades, several decades, I would say, in the last 60 years. One thing that I've seen, unfortunately, you may say that I'm a pessimist, but one thing that I've seen which has been consistent is that somehow we have always had hopes from the new government, but every government has turned out to be worse than the previous one. This is very unfortunate. Now we are also in a situation where we have strange kind of coalition. While obviously we have tried dictatorships and autocratic governments, that is not an answer. I'm very much against that. We have to have the process and democratic dispensation. But the democratic dispensation that we are seeing, which has pervasive impact on our economy, is that we have a very strange kind of coalition setup. The good aspect is that at least politicians, after a very long time, are trying to work on some kind of reconciliation. I think that's a positive. But the negative aspect is that there are so many compromises, not necessarily in the public interest or trying to protect the national interests or protecting the economy, but most of the compromises are to sustain the government, not the economy, or not, trying to do the right thing.